Can you see it properly?
Yes. Super. Can you go to the first?
Okay.
Okay. So as part of the webinar series, Innovate to Thrive, Mastering Living Labs and Collaborative Innovation, that is promoted by the VITALISE European project, today we bring you the seventh topic, a very broad one and somehow complex topic for which we will miss some hours. So this will be just a starting approach. We will focus on empowering collaborative innovation, co-creation, and user testing methods. Can you go to this? Yes. So the four of us will be sharing with you today. Despina Pezzani, representing the Thessaloniki Action for Health and Wellbeing Living Lab. Celia, representing Aristotle University of Thessaloniki. Eva from McGill University in Canada and Montreal Center of Interdisciplinary Research, and myself, Rosa Almeida, representing Interest Foundation, located in Spain, and our living lab called Mind Lab. Next one. So this is the agenda. I will provide a very brief introduction. And then Despina will help us to navigate the co-creation process. I will then touch a little bit some aspects of co-creation toolkits, and with Sylvia, we will dive into techniques, methods, and tools for co-creation. Then Eva will give us some practical examples of co-creation in health and leisure environments, and together we will finalize with a blueprint exercise and some takeaways. Okay, let's start this introduction with your participation. So please go to menti.com, use this code, and you will find one question for joint participation. That is, what comes to your mind when you hear the word co-creation? So let's give you 1-2 minutes. You can answer more than one word or sentence. Yes. I'm seeing here one question in the chat. Afterwards, this meeting, there will be the presentation and any further documentation shared with you. I'm not sure if it will be in the VITALISE webpage or by email. Maybe Lady can give some details.
Yes, we are going to share the link by email to access to the website of VITALISE.
Yes. And the question was also about the recording. Will the recording be accessible as well?
Yes, we are. Okay, one thing. We are trying to put everything in the platform in our website. Nevertheless, for those who really need urgently the material as the PowerPoint, you can send me directly an email and I can forward immediately by email to you.
So another question was about the code. The code you can see on the screen on the top, 4770-6487. So a lot of contributions now. Let's expect to see how this mural will appear afterwards. For the moment, the word collaboration and participation is standing out. Interdisciplinary, living labs, group solving problems. Work together, multiple voices, doing together, so the same. Innovation. So great. There are many definitions, but in general, the core is that is a collaborative process of creating new value together, involving potential users and other stakeholders and external experts in general. But of course, there are many definitions out there. This is something that normally it's in the core of those. So why is at first the need for co-creating together? We have here a statement taken from the Alliance roadmap that says that the difficulty in the adoption of new solutions is, in most of the cases, derived from wrong design of technologies without considering the real needs and capabilities of the end users. To which I also had nor the preferences, values, nor the context details. Therefore, we also state that next. It's working. Yes, without the insights gained through the lived experience of people, end users, family carers, business managers, social educators, and policymakers, or even other that are not mentioned here, the efforts for increasing well-being and inclusive social participation run the risk to not reach the expected impact. So we all know that best ideas come from involved people, and that the process of co-creation involves interaction between people across disciplines and walks of life. So now the next one. This video is a clear example of a product that does not fit the person reality. Can you? Yes. Or even interests, and so will not be working for the purpose it was designed, at least in this case. And here you can feel that you have an uninvited guest in your house or life because it does not adapt to your needs and motivations, or at least nor in the way you can feel receptive to. So let's give just a couple of minutes. We are not hearing, but the visual narrative is the most important part. It's in the second minute of the video that it gets interesting. So firstly, the older man, he tries to follow the recommendations of the system, but he was not so motivated to do so. And the time in which he was receiving the recommendations was not very much according to his routines. So sometimes he was not using the device, and then his children, his son just asked why he was not using it. And then he got, a bit frustrated. And then he found a solution. He found the solution that he will trick the system to make to appear that he was following all the suggestions, but in the reality, he was staying at home, doing what he was doing every time. But well, the good part was that he was creative enough to find those solutions to trick the system. So at least was motivating in some positive way. But of course, at the end, it was not the purpose of such developments. So do you have any comments on this? Well, otherwise we can go to the next slide. So before passing the word to Despina, I just want to have a quick look to some interconnected concepts, such as, this comment was definitively my dad in 10 years' time. So, for example, participatory design, that is a strategy to manage creative practices. It implements co-design methods to define a problem and then define a solution, following with a co-production process to implement the solution. And it leads to a democratization of the design process, where users on their own experience as experts by experience become fundamental. It allows a wide range of people to make a creative contribution. And mindful design is an understanding frame where we put the focus on making the participation journey accessible to all the players, especially the users. Design thinking is a mindset and an approach to problem solving and innovation that is anchored around human-centered design. It is a solution-based rather than problem-based. So now Despina will provide further details about the 5 steps, methods of design thinking, and more.
Thank you, Rosa. Hello from my side as well. Good morning, good evening across the world. I will try to give you an overview of the methods and the whole concept that we used in general on how to create new ideas. And I will mainly speak about design thinking and double diamond, which are 2 approaches that converge and at the end are guiding to the same implementation. And I will try to give you examples on how we have used that in European projects and how we have adapted the co-creation in different phases. So these triangles that you can see are the idea of the double diamond. So you can see them as 2 diamonds that are connected. And the words on behind are actually the 5 steps of the design thinking process. And I will start with what Rosa said previously, that at the beginning we have an idea. We have something that we think should solve a problem. We think that there would be innovative for people to use. So we start with something very small, very restricted. And this is the beginning of the double diamond. And that's why it's the edge of the triangle. But then we need to actually go and talk to people. We need to go and empathize with the people to get to know what they are thinking, what they are feeling, who they really are. So we start broaden our views and our way of thinking, trying to empathize with them and try to understand the whole problems that they have. So we go to the large part of the double diamond. And then we have all these new ideas, all these new perceptions, but we need to define what we will solve. So we are going again and narrowing our views on defining the specific problem that we are going to solve. And then again, going to the second diamond and following the design thinking process as well, we go on the ideation process in which we try to create solutions for solving the problem that we previously defined. So then while ideating, we again broaden our views in order to then narrow it down again to build a new prototype that we are going to test. So if you can move on the animation, we have at the beginning the problem and the solution. And these two methods are very well aligned of trying to define the steps that we normally do and that we have seen that work best for solving the problem. And in each of these steps, we can have co-creation sessions. So when empathizing, when defining, if you can move on a bit the animation, Celia. So in each of these steps, we can have different sessions with people in order to create with them, to co-create, to ideate, to empathize, to define, so move throughout the steps, and also with them try to broaden our minds on what they think, what they really want, but also narrow down on the specific solution that we are going to give to them. And I will try to, next slide. So for all this, the co-creation is more of a mindset than an actual means of doing things. So doing things with the people that will actually use that, and not doing that on our own, because we can use tools to prototype, to define among our team. But if you actually engage the people that are going to use at the end the final product, this is important to create something that they will actually meet their needs and build also their habits. Next slide. So going deeper on the design thinking, we have seen very briefly these 5 phases, but let's go a bit deeper. So the first phase is the empathizing phase. We need, when we have an idea, we need to go a step back and see what the people that we are building this, who the people that we are building this product for is. What are their needs? What are their wants? What are their habits? The habits are really important, because most of the times what we should try to, our biggest competitor, let's say, is the people habits, the way that the people are used to doing something. And there are various tools of how we can do that, and we can do that also by engaging them. So if you can go a bit forward. The next step is the definition. So you might want to build a solution for older people to support their autonomy. And you, during the empathize session, you might have seen that people have a lot of, older people have a lot of problems with their autonomy, concerning mobility, concerning how to take their medications, how they can prepare their meals and eat. But you need to define which solution you actually want to build, because you cannot solve all the problems that people have concerning their autonomy. So during the empathize, you have this broad view, and you need to define, I want to build a solution that will support people mobility. And going further, you need to start ideating. So here there are also tools that you can use, and you can be as creative as you want. We will see some tools together as well on how to ideate with people. It can be first a very easy to use tools. So piece of papers, Legos, things that they can do with their own hands, so that you create together a solution that start creating ideas for the solution. And then you go on and prototype. The prototype can again be something very easy to build, very easy to use, and not costly enough, so that you can go and very quickly test that. Because the design thinking is the one of very good solutions to use, because you can actually fail very quickly and very easily. So design thinking does not guarantee that what you build will be a success, but guarantees that whatever you build can fail like very quickly, so that you go to the next solution. And that is very important. And I would like to give you an example of how we have actually applied all this. And it was together also with Rosa and Eva in another European project that we were having and has ended some years ago, the Captain project. You have also the resource here that you can see how we have applied the whole design thinking methodology combined with Agile and Scrum for building a product inside an EU project. So we thought that instead of going the let's say the linear way that we defined up from the requirements, we deliver something, and at the end, if they don't want to use it, it's fine. It's a research project. We go on. We wanted to be a bit risky and engage with people throughout the way. So we were meeting them every 2 or 3 months, and we were giving them increments of the product in order to test and give us feedback. And we were trying to apply this feedback on the solution that we were building. So instead of, as you see in the above image, starting building databases, user management services, etc., that they do not care and do not know about, we tried in each step to give actually a functionality. So even if we don't have the best database or the best user management service, at least give them something that they can use. And then, based on the feedback, improve the process. And an example of how we actually applied this first design thinking process. If you go to next slide. So the goal for the system was to design a non-obtrusive coaching system for older adults living in home environment using projectors, gesture, and voice interaction. So it was not very precise. It was a bit broad. So what we had to do at the beginning was to go to the people and try to empathize with them, get to know what they actually want. And to do that, we decided to build a kind of board game that I will go through to quickly show you what we have done. So in the first, next slide, in the first step, we have, for the empathize session, we decided to use the persona tool. The personas are a very useful tool in which you create a fictional person, but you give them real needs, status, abilities of a real person, so that people can then look and start thinking of themselves, or people that they know, and they actually give you real feedback. And then, so we wanted to create their personas, and I will show you how we did that in order to try then and define the exact problems after empathizing with them. Next slide, please. Next. And then go through the ideation phase with them in order to move to a prototype and testing. Next slide. Okay, good. So how was the board game played? We started for creating the persona with a table. for which we have created cards that included details about their basic details like socio-demographic characteristics, health and well-being challenges that they might have, so physical, cognitive, social, and nutritional challenges, the hobbies that they might have, and the goals and interests. So the people were actually playing and picking cards like randomly, so that they create a persona at the end and have this persona in front of them and start thinking of how this person interacts in their everyday life. So we have cards like, next slide, like this. So for example, you have Hannah, 73, female, not married, lives alone, retired, and we have a lot of these cards with basic details. We have cards for cognitive problems, and all these were specially designed, of course, by people that know, that are in the field and know the cognitive problems that these people might have. So cognitive, hobbies, this person likes to listen to music, and we have a lot of these cards. Next one. Goals and interests, would like to improve. So they were picking randomly, at the end they have in front of them a persona with specific characteristics, and they were starting to relate to that or relate the person that they know with that. So this was the first part of the board game. And then at the second part, we gave them a home map, as you see here, with a home with different rooms, etc. And they were having this, I don't know how you call it in the board games, the ones that you move around. So this was the person that they actually created with the persona. And we asked them to start from the bedroom and think what this person will do when wakes up in the morning. So this person will wake up, will go to the bathroom, I don't know, wash their hands, wash their teeth, then prepare breakfast. So go through a routine, having in mind the cognitive difficulties, the physical difficulties, the nutrition difficulties that this person will have. And while doing that, we ask them to ideate how the solution, the technology that we were having, can help that person in their everyday routine. So we ask them to think of what voice interaction they can have with the system, what projections might be generated inside the house. So for example, when you go and prepare your meal, there might be a projection saying, make sure that you don't eat a lot of fat because you are this person that has these nutritional problems. And this was an interactive way and fun, as the people said, in order to empathize, define their problems, specify the problems that are most relevant to the specific persona, and also try to ideate for the solution. And then, of course, moving on, we moved to prototyping and testing in other sessions. So this is just an example of what we did actually in the Captain project. And I will stop here. I don't know if you have any questions or comments. So thank you. The floor is yours again.
This exercise in one of the workshops in 2019, I think, in Thessaloniki, in the Open Living Lab days, and the feedback was fantastic. The ideas that the different groups gave to us, some of those were even not. We didn't thought about some of those ideas before, and was really a great exercise. Okay, so now we can go forward. So it's my turn again. Before having a quick look to some already available co-creation repositories and toolkits, I feel it is important step back to stay with some basic details important for the use of co-creation to mobilize knowledge. I took this diagram from a review of many papers, including co-creation approaches, and it identifies 4 important themes: key aspects of co-approaches for knowledge mobilization, mechanisms of action, co-approach activities, and outcomes. As you can see, key aspects like bringing people together as active and equal partners, very important, relate with some of the mechanisms of action like shared understanding, identify and met needs, our sense of ownership, also valuing all knowledge connected with shared understanding and power and voice. Using a creative approach connects with power and voice, sense of ownership and trust and confidence. That is really important in co-creation. Using iterative prototyping techniques, connecting with power and voice, sense of ownership and trust and confidence, for example. So the mechanisms of action, the second point, need to have time and space for implementation. And that will be through co-approach activities, or to which we call co-creation activities. So let's go to the next. And this review also puts some focus in some aspects of interest, and in general we call to key fundamentals. Some of those are ensuring meaningful participation with proper facilitation. As you can see, like one of the mentions is expert facilitation of these varied activities was considered to be crucial to their success, appear to reduce anxieties regarding participation and encourage open and honest contributions. And as well, ensuring a summative approach through a flexible and iterative process using different creative tools and strategies, and that facilitates learning from each interaction to the next. Next. Say that we should look to what comes first, then the co-creation toolkits. So before anything, we should set a purpose and the key players in our co-creation process. Then we should set up the scene. I just put here some aspects to consider, but there are many more. Understanding our role to connect people and stimulate needs detection and promote change, get familiarized with the nearest community, see what kind of opportunities there are to engage people, know the details, aspects and the barriers for people to participate, and many more. And develop an engagement strategy based on those that knowledge. Consult expectations potential participants may have, how they feel able to participate, how to get a long-term commitment. So, and finally, organize the details of the co-creation sessions. Take into account the environment and mindsets you want to create or favor, like a safe and trustful spaces able to stimulate community belongingness, a rewarding participation, co-responsibility on the activities and results, and even a strategy to have a regular communication via the group of participants. And as I mentioned, these are just some of those I can recall now. Next one. Then we should also consider how to activate and engage the kind of participants we want. Consider the methods and tools that will support the collection of user experience and facilitate the co-design and co-creation, maintaining the focus in your research purpose. And also very important, just come back to this, is considering training for the facilitators, looking to the expected participative process we planned, looking to potential challenges for participation, and how can we adjust the planned sessions or be prepared for a proper facilitation, and reflect on how to overcome potential barriers and try and adapt. Because before going out and promote your co-creation sessions, it will be great if you can try with your own people, colleagues, that might not know very much about the project, and it will give you an idea of, you know, certain aspects that you might want to adapt furthermore. Next one. So you can find in the web some guidelines for starters, as is the case of this Mind Inclusion booklet, or you can adapt guidelines and templates such as the ones produced in VITALISE or in other projects to help you setting goals and the action plan for the co-creation process. Next. And normally, planning and define and further design the co-creation tools for your research, it's a productive effort itself. I mean, you can see here some steps you can follow. You can start exploring techniques and tools after, of course, you have defined very well the objective of your research. You can start exploring these techniques and tools. You can find described in different toolkits and repositories, as you can see some of those just in the slides. In those resources, normally you will find filters for facilitating your search. Some filters can be on goals, requirements, or even experience required by the participants. And this will probably help you to feel inspired and define the set of tools you want to use. And of course, this means that you either can create some new tools or adapt on existing ones. Then you should create a range of other complementary materials, like the guides for the facilitators, description of the activities, agenda, and so on. And also, not forgetting, very important, the reporting templates to capture assessment dimensions that are important as well as the user experience. So, to give you a concrete example, I brought a list of tools we have co-produced in Mind Inclusion project. And the objective of this experience was to co-create cognitively accessible design tools that guided the collection of experience from people with intellectual disabilities and other stakeholders in a project that was oriented to create awareness and improve accessibility of social spaces in the community. We have co-produced a game board, a user diary that was very playful, an adapted empathy map, an exploration activity indoor and outdoor, with an explorer pack with numerous items such as a group backpack, exploratory objects, an Instax camera, visual activities and cards to make participants feel prepared for the natural experience, interactions, and to communicate their insights in an easy and adapted way. So the next one, yes. So, sorry. There is another case of a Mind project. In this case, we focused in design for dementia, well-being, and empowerment. So from visual cards to visual diaries, a toolkit for empathizing, and a mindful scenario task analysis, many tools were co-created. We have the links in the presentation, and and you can find these and more resources in the project webpage as well. Next one. So this to say that there are indeed different toolkits that you can use to feel inspired and search for the best techniques and tools for your research purposes and the development of a co-creation journey. There are repositories in different languages, as you can see as well. Some of these are the ones I normally use in Spanish. And in English, one that is very much complete is the co-creation toolkit from UNVEILED that is featured by Eno. Next one. In this case, this is an example of UNVEILED webpage. You can browse by category, format, time frame, and group size, for example. Next. And you can find many other sources of inspiration if you have time and motivation for do so. Next. Now, in 2 minutes, we want to challenge you to share with the group any resources that you might know that we didn't refer yet here. So it will be great if we can, share any other repositories, tools that you know. Anyone? The first will be the hardest. So.
Hi, Rosa.
Hi, Diego.
Maybe in my context, maybe the ancestral or traditional knowledge that the community sharing with to try to promote or facilitating the searching of a solution, maybe.
Okay. Yes, so
Okay.
Can you elaborate a little bit?
Okay, when I try to solving a problem with the community, I worked with agricultural communities here in Santa Catarina in Brazil. Here, the approach or the resource to try to solving a solution, the same community bring the methodology. We talk about the traditional knowledge to trying to mitigate the floods in the region, etc., etc.
Oh, super.
Yep.
It's a very, very, very good idea. But how you organize these spaces together?
Okay.
Or bringing, yeah.
We bring the community in a urban living lab here in Brazil, in a tiny city called Jaraguá, when promoted this meeting with the community to try to solving problems.
Okay. Is there any specific tool or method that you use to serve as
we try
inspirational?
Obviously, the framework could be the human-centered design, because we focus in a problems, the brainstorming, that is the meeting conversation with the person, but the result is it's try to don't use the labels of design thinking, or because he brings this knowledge, this traditional knowledge, this ancestral knowledge that is most important for us, that bring the fire for him. We try to the same community bring the methods and bring the solutions.
This is just great. I will be very interested to know a little bit more about this work. Yeah, for sure. I think in the chat someone mentioned that as well. Naila mentioned not exactly a co-creation tool, but a conversation starter. Okay. Naila, do you want to share a little bit how you use, or you think you can use this tool?
Sure. I haven't used them myself. I just saw them at the World Parkinson Congress, and they're the cards themselves were co-created. Actually, I think I might be getting this wrong, but it involved clinicians and researchers and people with Parkinson's, and so the illustrations are all like very scientific or clinical illustrations, but then the questions are around someone's experience with Parkinson's. So I think it could be used for empathy mapping early on. But I wanted to use them in a workshop at some point, but I haven't done it yet.
So they were created initially for working with Parkinson
Yeah.
population, but it can be transferred as a method to work with the other groups and other research topics. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So maybe we can continue then. So it is clear that can you go with the next slide, Celia? There are countless of useful tools and techniques that relate with design thinking, 5 steps frame, for example, in this case, that can be very useful in our research. And here you can see just a few of them. So now I pass the word to Celia that will dive with you into techniques, methods, and tools for co-creation.
Thank you, Rosa. Welcome everyone from my side as well. So today in my part, I will share with you some examples of co-creation tools described on the webpage of UNALAB project, as Rosa has already mentioned. UNALAB is a European project coordinated as well by ENON. And then my last slides focus more on the co-creation templates that were created within the VITALISE project and that we can share with you afterwards so that you can also use them for your own research activities if you wish so. So at the UNALAB website, here you can see also the corresponding link previously written as well. Here, all the co-creation tools and methods are in general divided into 5 main categories, which are need finding, ideation, strategy, experimentation, and feedback. So, starting from the need finding, here you can see some examples of tools and methods that belonged to this specific category, such as empathy timeline, participatory mapping, personas, people shadowing, value proposition canvas, etc. So from all this, we will see in detail now photo walk in parallel with photo voice method. So what is photo voice method? Photo voice is a dynamic, let's say, participatory visual research method designed to spark social change, especially we could say in vulnerable communities, by exploring mostly their experiences. What participants are actually asked to do here is that they are asked to take some photos that vividly portray their unique situations in response to given questions or topics, usually by the facilitators. So afterwards, these images will play a very critical role to the collaborative sessions and discussions that will follow between the participants and the researchers, the facilitators, sometimes in the form of semi-structured interviews or focus groups that usually come after the part of taking pictures. So the importance of this method also lies in the fact that it empowers in a way the participants, making them actively participating and get involved in the research process. So for the participants, this provides a way to visually express, let's say, their experiences and share personal insights about the probable issues that may prove challenging to express through words alone. So for all these reasons, we could say that the advantages of photo voice are that it is an interactive and inexpensive method, of course, easy to use, that supports qualitative discussion and encourage participants to express themselves, promoting that way reflective thinking. And on the other side, some potential limitations are initially the fact that, okay, it can take a lot longer than interviews or focus groups. Also, some people may not get easily the concept of photo voice or even get distracted by the use of cameras. And of course, it's essential to keep in mind the safety and the ethical issues that may arise since there is self-disclosure as well. Some ideas, some potential themes for photo voice could be, for example, several matters relevant to the community, health barriers, supports, preferences and dislikes of the participants, or even positive and negative outcomes coming from a project, or from an event, public facilities, etc. And then we move to photo walk. Here, during photo walk, you navigate a specific area, capturing images of anything that catches your attention. And afterwards, after that part, together with your team, you analyze these photos, and by doing that, you can discover fresh themes or patterns that may result in new and innovative ideas. This practice, we could say, that serves as a journey of observation, encouraging participants to see beyond the obvious and towards probably novel solutions. So that way, the photo walk becomes, we could say, a lens to gain new perspectives and ideas and insights. And a few guidelines for the photo walk method could be that each participant takes their own pictures, express thoughts and preoccupations about social issues. So focus more on mapping the area through images. And 3, you can feel free, of course, to take a lot of photos. And let's say a general instruction is a minimum of 30, but 100 could be even better. And for that, of course, the only thing that you need is a camera, even a phone camera. So moving to the next category, the category of ideation. Here, again, you can see some examples of used tools and methods, like the strategic canvas, the future newspaper, the Walt Disney method, the fishbone diagram, the 5 whys, lottery game, and many more. So from this, we will see in detail the Walt Disney method. It is a method developed in 1994. In general, it's a complex, somehow creative approach where a group cycles through three distinct thinking styles. We have the dreamers, the realistics, and the critics. So this method employs in parallel thinking to systematically analyze problems, generate new ideas, evaluate those ideas in later stages, and in the end, construct and critique a plan of action. So although this method was not fully developed by Walt Disney, it serves as a bridge between imagination and reality, we could say. If we want to compare it with the 6 thinking hats, this method offers an alternative with a constant sequence, unlike the 6 thinking hats, where the order is more flexible. And for this method, are required 3 sheets of A4 paper and some pens. So if we want to see a bit the process in more detail, to begin here, the team steps into the role of the dreamer in the beginning, allowing their imagination to run freely, generate new ideas, visions without thinking limitations or having any other concern. So following this, the team, following this part, the dreamer's part, comes the role of realist. The realist engages with the ideas, reflecting on key questions. We could say some of them that are what needs to be done, what needs to be said, what resources are needed for the implementation in terms of materials, people, knowledge, etc. How do I personally feel about this idea? What foundational elements are already in place? If the approach this approach can be tested, and etc. Of course, you can create more questions like that. And in the final phase of the cycle, takes the role the critic. Here, the task as team is to address the outcomes of the realist and express criticism. So questions to guide this phase may include what could be improved, what are the potential opportunities, what are the potential risks, what might have been overlooked, and of course, what are my thoughts on this specific proposal. And then open-ended questions are then addressed back to the dreamer, who reintroduces the cycle based on the insights that have been already gained. So the process concludes, and this process ends when the critic has no longer further relevant questions, and when it's foreseeable that another run, another iteration, will not bring any further optimization. So for each role, it's beneficial in general to have a separate space, but of course, instead of separate rooms, if it's not feasible, it is also possible to have 3 chairs placed in different corners of a room. Then we move to the next category, which is strategy. Here we have again plenty of examples of used tools and techniques, such as digital presence, operational manuals, onboarding kit, 5 bold steps, road mapping, vision development, etc. Among all these, we will see in detail the 5 bold steps. And what is that? It is a dynamic tool for collaboratively crafting both your vision and the specific steps to realize it. So this tool empowers your team to understand and define in particular what supports your vision, which are the potential challenges, and which are the opportunities on the path to achieving it. So in addition, the vision canvas could also serve as a guide in establishing design criteria in case you have a business model and strategy. And for this specific method, you just need the printed canvas, which you can find in this link, and I will show you in the next slide. And you will also need some post-its and some pens. This is the canvas, actually. We can start by seeing one by one. And then, so here, okay. We start setting the stage, let's say, by arranging a comfortable environment, ideally not in a typical meeting room setting. So then we print the canvas that I showed you previously on a sizable sheet of paper, and we gather all the essential materials needed here, the post-its and the markers. And then we go to the template that I showed you. First, we need to craft the vision statement, envisioning the future of our organization or project, whatever, it depends on the focus, and outlining how we will assist our stakeholders. Then we need to identify and discuss which are the essential themes in 1 or 2 words, exploring how these themes will show in your organization or project, making this vision more concrete and inspiring for others. And the next step is to specify the supports needed to reach your vision, then define your challenges, the challenges that pose obstacles to your vision, and afterwards, which are the concrete steps to be taken in order to achieve your vision. So you need to consider the key values, which means to identify the key values of your vision and the steps, and then explore the ways to align these crucial values. So with this clear canvas and focused insights, your team that way will be able to clarify what supports, what challenges your vision, and what opportunities are created in working towards your visions and your values. Then the next category is the experimentation, the phase of experimentation. Some examples here of tools and methods is data journal, stakeholders journey, usability testing, assumptions mapper, A/B testing, storyboard, etc. Here now we will focus on usability testing. So what is usability testing? This is a method, a vital method for exploring actually the user friendliness. This means how easy it is to use something by testing it with your real users, and thus how the real users interact and perceive your product, or your project, it depends. So in this process, users are tasked with completing specific actions, specific tasks, while the researchers observe the participants and highlight the areas of difficulties or confusion, let's say. So the value of usability testing here lies mainly in the ability that it has to mitigate the risk of developing something wrong. Let's say a wrong product, a product that does not meet the end user's needs and their expectations. So of course, that way it saves money, it saves time, and of course resources by identifying issues early enough when they are most straightforward and cost effective to address. And of course, it's important to mention that usability testing is not a one-time event, but an iterative process. And repeating the cycle is essential until we need to repeat the cycle until the design is no longer confusing and the users are able to achieve the proposed scenarios. So the required materials here would be mainly a laptop, a PC, a recording device, and some paper to document and refine the user experience. Moving to the next one, we have the category of feedback. Here, some examples we can say include methods like graduation ceremony, storylines, mental mapping, pattern finding, etc. The example we will see here is I like, I wish, and what if. So this is a tool-structured approach for gathering user feedback by encouraging them to provide insights through 3 types of statements. The first one is the I like statements. Here the users express positive aspects that they enjoyed about the prototype, providing, of course, valuable positive feedback. Then follows the I wish statements, where users share ideas on how the prototype can be enhanced or modified to address concerns, offering that way a channel for more constructive criticism or negative feedback. And lastly, we have what if statements, and here users introduce new suggestions that may not directly relate to the prototype, opening that way avenues for exploring new ideas in future iterations. So to employ this tool, all you need is a white board or a paper. So as you can see, it's really easy to it's a very easy tool to facilitate and to understand, of course, even with little or no explanation. And it's a tool that enables open discussion and feedback sharing. So here we can see briefly the process. Here, first, of course, we prepare for the exercise. It's good to tailor the exercise to the group size that you have, either by providing printed forms or drawing 3 categories, likes, wishes, and what ifs, on a whiteboard for sharing their comments, placing their comments. Then you collect the likes, wishes, and what ifs. Here, the suggestion is to allocate up to 10 minutes for each participant to write down their comments in the corresponding fields. And here you can have in mind that instead of what if, you can use alternatives like I wonder, how to, or how might I. And last but not least, you analyze the collected feedback. So you can transfer the gathered input to an Excel spreadsheet or a mind map and then identify the specific patterns that may occur within the feedback in order to plan your next steps. And then, of course, refine the iterative process. So this approach is good when you want to create an interactive and constructive environment for feedback collection and analysis in a comprehensive and simple enough way. And now, that was all about the tools and methods by UNVEILED project. You can find, of course, more information about those tools presented in the website, in the project website. And now I will take some more minutes to briefly present you the main aspects that we have included in the two co-creation templates that were developed within the VITALISE project. Actually, there were created two specific templates, one with guidelines for conducting a co-creation session, and another one with specific sections for reporting a co-creation session. So for the first one, based on the first template, the main aspects here needed to be defined when you are conducting a co-creation session are the following. First, of course, the research question and aims, then the type and the number of your stakeholders, the structure of the session, and all the planned activities. If you have any guiding questions for facilitating the flow of your co-creation, of course, the tools and materials or resources that are going to be used, the expected outputs of the co-creation session, and lastly, the part of the logistics, where and when the co-creation session will take place, what will the setting, how will the setting be, and what will be the exact items of the agenda. And moving to the second co-creation template, here the main aspects when you are about to report your session are first the facilitator team, which may be consisted as well of the observers and the documenters. The participants' profile, some indicative information could be, for example, the gender, the age, profile, educational level, and technology literacy level. Then you need to report the goals and objectives of your session. A list of indicative questions previously mentioned in the first template for the co-creation. The list of the questions that you may have used and the activities that took place during the session. Then a list of the tools and the materials that you used. And in the end, a summary of your outputs and your main findings. The last part is consisting of the section about possible incidents that may have occurred during your session. Of course, some photos from the participants during the sessions. Here, keep in mind that you have ensured previously that you have informed your participants and you have a written consent from them for taking photos, etc. And last but not least, you can also report the output, the responses to any questionnaire that you may have used. For example, in our case, we had in the end a participation questionnaire and for the actual participants, and another one that we used internally about the happiness of the team, the facilitators. So in general, that was all from my side. Of course, we can share with you afterwards the two templates that we created, along with the rest presentation of the webinar, so that you can use them as you wish for your own research activities, adjusting any field based on your own needs, and mentioning the VITALISE project to your work if using these templates. I think that was all from my side. I hope it was not too much. And of course, if there are questions or any doubts to address, discuss all together, we'll be here.
Is it my turn? Oh, go ahead, Diana. Yes.
Diana.
Hi, thank you for the nice presentation. There are a lot of new terms for me, a lot of tools. Is there a place that we have a description about this so we can make a choice for all the stages of co-creation?
If you mean for the co-creation templates that we developed, or for the tools that I presented
well, all the tools in each phase, ideation, because you just gave a sample of each one, but if we want to have them in one place, and for me it was all new, so I didn't know what exactly it meant. Like,
yes.
Yeah, all these words, like, yeah.
Yes, sure. Yes. So we used this website, the UNVEILED project website. There, I think Rosa showed you how the how it is, the
Yeah,
environment.
there are different repositories
Yes.
that you can use. UNALab is one of the ones that
Mhm.
are more complex. But you have others also in the presentation. Also in my part, there are different links you can try afterwards.
But everything is there. You can have a look, all the information, all the tools, the descriptions, the materials needed for each one is already described there. If there's anything more.
Any other questions before we go to an actual two examples? No. Okay. So Celia, I think you would agree, Rosa and Despina, that yes, it's magnificent to have all of these templates, the precise description of what the steps are and what we should be doing. But in reality, we don't always follow exactly every single step. So it's wonderful to have the template, and it's amazing if we can use it. But in real life, we need to adapt to the actual environment, whether that is health, so hospital in this case, or in leisure environments. So what I will be speaking about it was the video that you saw at the very beginning. That was amazing because that's precisely why co-creation needs to take place before we move onto the proposal or buying or policy about devices and technologies, etc. So next slide, please, Celia. So I will be speaking about two co-creation activities. One that took place at the Jewish Rehabilitation Hospital, and this is the Walk Again project that actually is in parallel running also at another Montreal rehabilitation setting. And this is a project that involves different researchers from the University of Montreal, Sylvie Nadeau being the main researcher at the University of Montreal, with other researchers. I think, Diana, you're also involved in this. And then researchers at McGill University and the Jewish Rehab. So I'll be talking about this co-creation that happened at the Jewish Rehab. For those of you that work, no, I need you to go back. Thank you. So for those of you that work in rehab or elderly individuals or in hospital settings, and those of you that have worked with persons with stroke, you probably have seen that as they leave the rehabilitation institution, they do not resume participation and activities in the community or even in their homes. Well, we saw the elderly gentleman in the video, but this is really the daily life of persons with stroke that go through the system and end up either at home or in a community center um, or living alone or with their families. So and when we've asked clinicians, and we have heard and we know already that yes, they get amazing rehabilitation interventions while in rehab, but that's not enough. So the idea of the researchers was, okay, let's add some interventions. Let's do more. Let's add technologies. And let's also measure to what effect, whatever we are doing, the extra hours, the extra weeks of walking and training and different interventions, do they actually work? And so what you see here, and this is the Walk Again project. So I've essentially, we want to test and document the effects of additional training on locomotor activities, but not just because it's locomotion, but also cognitive training, and then using different types of technologies here, virtual reality training. So this was a research idea that was developed within the VITALISE project and within the work package on rehabilitation, the joint research activity on rehabilitation. Next slide, please. And here are different technologies that are used. We need to measure, if we're having these people walk more, well, we need to see whether that has an effect in their walking, in their speed, in their type of gait. And of course, we also need to know, you heard a lot about measuring satisfaction. Are they satisfied with what they're doing? What do the clinicians think? Do they think that the patients who have gone through this intervention will actually, is there a benefit to them? Was it easy? Was it not easy? Well, we certainly could not decide this by ourselves, we being the researchers. And considering that our labs are in rehabilitation institutions, next slide, please, the only way to go was to actually have a co-creation session. I'm speaking about one in particular. So here we are, 4 researchers and 3 clinician researchers, and then 8 clinicians, inpatient clinicians, 1 manager. I'll talk about why this is so important. 5 physiotherapists, 1 occupational therapist, and 1 speech language pathologist. Living with stroke implies difficulties in many different domains. Next slide, please. We got together June 23rd, I think, of this past June. And so we spent about 2 hours talking. And here are some of the questions that were addressed during this co-creation session. What are eligibility criteria? What are appropriate eligibility criteria? Is this relevant to the study population? Sometimes researchers think that something is relevant, but maybe it isn't. What outcome measures are appropriate? There is a list of outcome measures that have been proposed. Are these relevant and are they appropriate? Then does the team have the resources and ability to manage the study intervention? That's precisely why we needed also a manager. The manager is going to look at the team, say, okay, you're doing this, you're doing that. Is it relevant? Is it appropriate? And is it feasible? Is it manageable? Next slide, please. Are the study procedures and interventions suitable for and acceptable to the participants? Yes, we do want to train them for 2 hours every 2 days for 8 weeks. Is this feasible? Now, this is over and above whatever rehabilitation they're getting. So, will the patients tolerate the sessions? Will the sessions be beneficial? There's one thing to tolerate, another thing, are they coming out of this intervention walking better, feeling better, maybe integrating the community better? So you can imagine a slew of questionnaires that are or will be administered. So I'll just kind of flash at you. Next slide, please. And this is just, I'm not going to go through this, but this is just to give you an idea of all the factors, the outcomes, the personal factors that will be collected during this study, the different measurements of body structures and function, and the different measurements of activities and participation. This whole the whole co-creation session was amazing because it actually allowed researchers and the clinical researchers to identify and to make sure that, yes, I think that doing, measuring X and intervening in Y is important. but do the clinicians that are actually doing the daily job, do they also think so? And is there some kind of agreement amongst the clinicians? You saw there were physios, OTs, physiotherapists, occupational therapists, and one speech language pathologist. Is it reasonable? Is it feasible? The outcome was amazing, because we actually now have a much better protocol than we had in the beginning. We could not have reached that without the co-creation. Now, let me give you one. What did that mean for us? Well, it meant that we had to actually rework the protocol a little bit, and we had to make new ethics submissions and modifications to ethics that were originally made. But it's all for the best. And if the results that we will be getting from the patients will actually be the biggest reward for them and for us. Now, let's move to a leisure environment. Very different study. And this is a study that actually, well, it began in 2018, still ongoing. And this is at the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts. So next slide, please. So the museum is, all of you have visited museums, and probably multiple times. What you don't see as much in the museums are people with physical disabilities. And that's, among other reasons, probably because they have difficulty getting there, difficulty navigating. Next slide, please. The museums go to great pains, actually, to try and bring people with disabilities to the museum. They will organize sessions for a variety of reasons, because museums are magnificent, because we learn when we're in museums. Also, in some studies, they have shown that people walk much more in a museum than they would up and down the hallway or on a treadmill. And that's because one is being entertained. So we know that museums are a wonderful place, not just for leisure, sometimes also for rehab. Next slide, please. But so how do exhibits come together? Well, there are the works of art. Then there is the curator that actually decides what this exhibit should look like. Should it be dark? Should it be inviting? Should it be artistic? Next slide, please. Which doesn't always jive with what is actually needed. So here we go. A person in a wheelchair can hardly see the exhibits that are shown high up on a shelf. And even a person without disability can hardly read things that are placed in dark, obscure corners or next to the work of art, but still in a dark and obscure way. Next slide, please. So the museum, interestingly, the Museum of Fine Arts, and not just that one, but that's the one we worked with, they were very conscious of the fact that, yes, we want everybody. The museum needs to be for all. So how can we do better? And we addressed, I'm just speaking now of a specific example that looked at the accessibility of the language and language texts that follow that are next to the works of art. So essentially, we said to them, okay, you want to improve accessibility. Can we help you help us and help essentially the people so that this can be a museum for all? Next slide, please. So here's the team. 3 members of the museum, 2 researchers in psychoneurolinguistics, 1 interior designer, a clinician and speech language pathologist. We are talking about language after all. 2 persons with disabilities and 2 students. Next. Yep, next slide, please. Thank you. So we consulted different participants. We had them come in. They looked at works of art. They looked at the accompanying information. And next slide, please. And this is actually, we selected 3 works of art. This is one of the ones I like very, very much. And it actually has The Woman on the Sofa by Kees van Dogen. And it actually has a fairly easily understandable description. So this is the description that you see on the wall. This is one of the easier ones. There are others that are hard to understand, even for someone with lots of education. Next slide, please. So we said, okay, how can we make these better? Well, from the researcher's perspective, we looked into tools that tell us that when I plug in this text, it actually gives me the readability of the text. Is it grade 10? Is it university level? We certainly did not want texts at university level, not even at grade 10. We actually needed to change the text to a level grade 5, grade 6 maximum. Now, of course, when we said that to the team, especially the 3 persons from the museum, because we met and we said, okay, here's what we propose. They said, are you serious? Are you really going to change our texts? And I can tell you that even one of the researchers on the team, she said, oh, how can we change these eloquent, beautiful texts? Next slide, please. Well, thank you. What we did is we analyzed the texts. We used psycholinguistic measures, and then we said, well, we know that persons with aphasia, stroke and aphasia, but not just them, they do even better if they have not only accessible text, but also pictures. So we did that as well. Next slide, please. So here is the text, the same text that was on the wall, except now it's in accessible language, short sentences, and with pictures. And then we invited persons with stroke and aphasia and persons with, and their caregivers, actually. And we had them read the text on the wall. We had them read this text. The curator, again, was very stressed. Are we changing those texts on the wall? Our answer was no, absolutely not. But if we can, just like either for a visual guide or an audio guide, just like you press 1 for English, press 2 for French, press 3 for accessible. And that's for the audio guide. But we also created special sheets that would accompany the different works of art. Next slide. I think it's my last one. Yes. Guess what? They loved it. Everybody loved the accessible texts. There were a couple, I can't say that everybody, there were a couple of people with, I'm sure, very high education who said, we prefer the text on the wall. And that's wonderful. The text on the wall is not leaving. But now we can have more accessible texts. What I loved the most from all of this was that the people who came, who participated in the co-creation session, the patients and their caregivers who also participated in the actual testing, had never come to the museum before. And then they were trying to figure out how can they return. And that, I think, was the best part, which is, of course, now having the museum get back to us to request how we can help them make them more accessible. So that was my story for co-creation, my 2 stories. I think I took more time than I was allotted, but here we go. Rosa, back to you.
So, any questions? Or insights about Eva presentation?
Yeah, I must say, especially the museum co-creation sessions, those were repeated just about once a month until the project was completed, because this particular process was iterative and continuous.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Eva. I think there is, well, Naila is mentioning, could you share some details of what
Yes,
tools you use for the co-creation sessions?
yes, absolutely. Well, the tools we used were essentially, we didn't pick specific tools. It was discussion. We did a more or less of a type of SWOT analysis, or more the what if, what would you rather have, and how could we make things better. We used, I think that's about it. We picked different pieces from different co-creation methods, and essentially the main tool was, let's talk together and let's create together something that we all agree is good for our focus were the persons with disabilities. And
And there was
we
a
all,
part with the exploration in situ, because you
absolutely,
were with them in the
yeah,
museum,
it
actually.
was definitely an exploration in situ. And then we, in another project, we did use photo voice as a method, precisely because we sent out the persons with disabilities to take pictures and then come back and talk to us. So not in this project, no.
If I may add, Eva, because this comes together with the one that we run in our museum here
Yes,
in
yes,
Thessaloniki.
yes.
So this was the time that we use also photo voice
Mhm.
for asking people to take pictures of what they grabs their attention in the museum and what they do not understand. So this linked with accessibility, and then coming back with the photos and trying to explain what they saw. We starting to understand what was difficult for them, what was missing in the museum. So yeah, that's an example that we ran with Eva and links very well with this museum.
It was like a photo voice and also a diary of experience.
Yes,
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, we used the same photo voice method also with children. And this was another project done in Greece with children that had low communication abilities. And suddenly, once they took those pictures, they started talking. And they started talking about the works of art and what they enjoyed about them. So this was, I mean, this can take different forms, but that was actually the best way to tackle that particular audience.
If there are no further questions, we can then continue. And now we would like to do an exercise with you and get some insights in the process of creating a co-creation plan together. So I will ask for any volunteer or volunteers to imagine and share some details of a co-creation session you would like to run, or even a session you already have planned or performed. So Celia, next slide. So this will be open, discussion, open sharing. Anyone that want to share or details of a potential co-creation session that you will like to run in the future? So we have here some aspects in these boxes just to help you to think on details that might be relevant. But in general, it will be more open sharing. Nyla?
I can share, but only if no one else wants to, because I feel like I've been hogging a lot of the time. But I'll get into it, and then if another one comes up in the comments, we can switch. I have a co-creation coming up. We recently, for context about the project, it's trying to find arts-based and technology-based methods to promote connection and understanding of Parkinson's disease. And so more generally, it's about how can we better communicate embodied experiences, like felt and sensory experiences that are difficult to put into words. But for this project specifically, it's just a pilot study, a quick prototype of an artist proposed this to us, and now we want to work with people with Parkinson's to see how we can make it meet their needs. So it's a portraiture booth where two people would be drawing one another, and he wants to adapt tools to be used by people with Parkinson's, so adapt digital and physical drawing tools. But the objective is really to have a shared moment through drawing and to have kind of an empathetic exchange that is mediated by looking at one another in a very different way than we do every day. So we actually have a co-design session coming up, a virtual co-design session where we wanted to work with people with Parkinson's and caregivers to better identify, okay, what would need to be part of this activity to reach the objectives of having an empathetic exchange or having a moment of connection. How do you want to be seen with Parkinson's disease? Like, how do you want this activity to shape how someone else sees you or pays attention to you? What kind of tools do you want us to adapt to make this more accessible? Those are some of the questions we would like to address in this co-creation or co-design session. Is that enough detail?
Yes, I want to ask you about incorporating results. So then the results from this co-creation session, how you will manage, how you plan to manage them, to incorporate them into real something. It will be just a reporting, and or it will be able also to create or refine some of the solutions to support accessibility for people with Parkinson in art creation.
Yeah, it will guide the artist's prototype directly. So the idea was to work directly with people with Parkinson's as this artist creates this installation or this booth, this portraiture booth, and the activity around it. So we wanted to very early on bring people with Parkinson's into what they would want to get from this activity, what is the physical aspects of it, what are the tools. So in the first session, the results of those would guide the artist what he creates. And when we have a prototype, when we have the activity set up, we wanted to test it with people with Parkinson's and caregivers, and yeah, that feed into a larger project that we're doing, and then hopefully build on it. I don't.
Oh, we have lost Naila.
Problems.
We have lost you for some seconds, Naila.
Okay. Am I back?
Yes.
It was just to say the early on in these sessions, the results would directly guide the artist and what he creates.
Perfect. Do you have already a time frame for these different interactions, or you will be deciding on the number of following interactions as you know, taking into account the results of each one, or you already have more or less a full overview of how many interactions and which will be the goals for each one?
Somewhere in between. So I do have a time frame. It's a quite small time frame. So this project was over a year. It was first identifying what are some aspects of Parkinson's that people want to have understood better or communicate better. And then we sent a proposal to artists, or we sent a call to artists to propose something based on those results. So that was the setup for it. And now we have from now until April. So in this first co-design session would be in a couple weeks, and that would just be virtual. And then in the winter, we would have 2 or 3 in-person consultations or co-design sessions, we'll see. And then we have a testing in March, a first round of prototype testing in March, and then a bigger one in April at a kind of at a conference for people with Parkinson's. So that's the timeline.
Are there any
5 sessions in total. Yeah.
Are there any enabling elements for engaging participants, more than the ones that will be enabling elements to facilitate their actual, painting and so on? But anything you already have into your mind when asking participants to come on around and be part of the co-creation session?
Yeah, that's a good question. So so enabling elements, things that will facilitate getting people on board, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think one thing that helps is we partnered with Parkinson Quebec, and I'll be giving a workshop at the conference that is about using artistic media as a form of expression or communication. So the booth that we'll have right after, I think it'll be enabling to have this workshop first and then to have people move to the booth afterwards. The other one, so I have previously created a performance, or I led the co-creation of a performance by people with Parkinson's, neuroscientists, and artists around the lived experience of Parkinson's disease, and we have a screening in January. So I think if people were to come to the screening and see how other artistic media have been used to express or to promote understanding of Parkinson's, maybe that would be an enabling element as well. But I think my barrier is that it's a drawing activity and people have certain feelings or responses or previous experiences with drawing, and the goal isn't to draw well, the goal is to look at each other in a different way. So I don't quite know how to frame it to people who might have a very specific association with drawing.
So which levels of Parkinson you are considering? Because, for example, I also previously worked with Parkinson, and I was some years ago managing some psychoeducation sessions. There was one colleague in another room with caregivers, and I was with people with dementia and dementia associated with Parkinson, and there was sometimes 3-4 people, sometimes 5 or 6, and I was alone in the room. And there was a moment in which one of the persons with Parkinson asked to go to the bathroom. So at that point, I felt stressed because, I did not had another person in the room to support me, and it took long because in the moment when this person was a bit, stressed because she was not walking so normally and so quickly as other person, and so I could manage. But of course, I've learned that I need to have other person to support, and I need to have a bathroom just near the place where we'll be working. And probably the time that we will, all we need to organize the session need to be not, well, a little bit short, not so short so we need to accomplish with our objectives, but it should be somehow not too long, you know, because people might have their own needs, and even to take a refresh or something. And if there is the case that the participation of someone of reference will not affect their participation, it also might be, you know, good, because at least in the first sessions, they are not much familiarized with you or other colleagues. So if they feel they have someone of reference there, it might be good. But this is just on my own experience, yes?
Very helpful. Thank you.
May I suggest something, that if I understand correctly, that the artist is trying to kind of visualize how the persons with the dementia are feeling. So that's, if I understand correctly. What I was thinking about that, one way to do it, that because AI is now very capable of drawing images, and in a way that maybe you should also try the AI as a part of that. So basically, you don't necessarily need the artist, but you need the persons who can, you know, give commands to the AI and create the visualizations, because the possibilities are kind of an endless over there, depending on which of the AI tools you are selecting. And then what I was thinking about also, in a way, if the idea was the kind of create the illustrations, what the persons with the dementia are feeling, then basically what Eva is doing in the museums, that how the people are interpreting the art, or how they are, you know, the consuming the museum stuff. So basically taking then the methods for testing in a way that how you should interpret the art. And I think that then you would have a quite solid kind of a theoretical background. I'm not an expert on how to evaluate art, but I think there are some proper methods for doing that. But really, in the era of AI, I think that's the thing that you should at least try to at least compare the real artist and the AI, because that would be a great paper as well, that, you know, the AI beat the beat the artist, because if you have only one person, it's limited time that he or she can draw or illustrate. In a way, with the AI you can do that much faster and much more volume.
Yeah, thank you. So a point of clarification, in this case, the purpose is not for the artist to draw representations of Parkinson's. The activity itself is between someone with Parkinson's and a caregiver or a researcher or clinician drawing one another simultaneously with different prompts. So that would be, it's really about the activity of drawing and paying attention to one another in a different way. But I really like this proposal because there's another project here, a student who wants to use AI generated art for people with chronic pain to express their pain, and to use that also as a tool for a clinician then to be able to refer to, like, have a visual of that person's experience with pain. And we've been trying to find a link between our projects, and I think that's a very good idea, perhaps to add the possibility of using AI generated art into this kind of drawing exchange between two people. Yeah, I'm gonna write that.
In the last Open Living Lab days, there was a university, I think that was from Barcelona, that was showing a generator of artistic images when you have a camera in front of you. So depending on your emotions, so the face recognition of emotions, it generates artistic image. So I don't know, but somehow this might relate. So
Yeah.
I may be in contact afterwards with you just to give you this reference.
Would be great, yeah, if you can find it. Thank you. Thanks for your help.
Okay, so we don't have too much time, but still we want to finalize with another Menti question. for those that are still with us. Celia, can you show the, yes. So on the top, then you will see again, yeah, the code. Okay, perfect. So now we ask you to give us some tips on what are the aspects you prioritize as co-creation do's and co-creation don'ts. Celia, can you show the Menti board? Thank you. So some of the feedbacks: asking users to work with a mask of experts. Well, they really are experts on their own experience. So factor enough time for unpredictable elements, be flexible, able to adapt to the plan along the way, follow new ideas, give people a variety of tools to work with, be aware of the group dynamics. Very good. Diverse stakeholders collaboratively working, understand, or collaborative environments. Encourage active participation. Very good. Just a few seconds in case there is anyone writing something. Otherwise, we can go to the don'ts. That might be even more special. Don't invite people from different stakeholder groups. Well, this might be different depending on our objective, our research objectives, purposes, and also the way we think to organize the sessions. Sometimes is even the objective of the co-creation sessions somehow to create this matching in terms of views, hearing the different views, and yeah, help them to empathize with each one. So sometimes, for example, in our co-creation sessions at Interest, normally I'm from a RDI department and Living Lab. We normally involve topic of technology, and sometimes it's very important to bring the technologists to here and be part somehow. Of course, normally we focus and we give more time and space for the end users. Sometimes we also need to bring in some moment, normally not in the first meetings, but afterwards, some representatives of policy makers, or we organize in such a way that they can work in subgroups, you know, and then they can share their different views that are complementary. But of course,
if I may add,
yes,
Rosa, actually, this is when I read it, I said, "Oh my goodness!" Because yes, when we did our very first museum, big, large co-creation session, we had people with different types of disabilities, and guess what? A person with visual impairment has a very different need from a person with auditory impairment, from a person, and I can go on. It's tricky, but that's the beauty of bringing together also. Yes, it's tricky, but if you succeed through integration and it's hard work, iterative process, the result could be pretty amazing.
exactly. So further insights, ignore feedback. Yes, this is completely don't fear failure and underestimate facilitation and methods. Forget to debrief and force an outcome. This is a huge error, but sometimes some way it might happen. Sometimes you want to facilitate so much that you are inducing the feedback in a certain way. And this is, I think at the end, this is, as you know, your personal and professional experience. You gain much more confidence in facilitating as you are going and have more and more experience with co-creation.
Rosa, I must absolutely leave because I teach at 11:30 and I have to get to my class.
I will
Thank
just
you
say
so
the
much.
last words. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, any questions you would like to do before we close the session? We had a part for some takeaways, sharing some takeaways, but I think we already have this interaction after each of the presentations. So I don't know if you have any question, anything you would like to say before we close the session. So otherwise, before the goodbye, we have a quick questionnaire. We would like to invite you to respond. I think my colleagues already shared it. I don't know if it can be shared again in the chat. It will be anonymous, and of course, will help us to understand if somehow it responded to your expectations and what can we improve. And the next and last module, that will be the 8th, will take place the next week, next 13 December, and will be focused on the topic driving innovation success, unleashing the power of user-centric research design for your next project. So there is one new message. Okay, so thank you all for your participation and see you next week. Well, was someone, Diego?